Welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments, the best growth mindset podcast, recognized by Million Podcasts and ranked as a top mindset podcast by FeedSpot. We're proud to be in the top 1% on Listen Notes. Join Dr. Alisa Whyte as we explore powerful insights and strategies to elevate your mindset. Let's dive in.
Hello, disruptors, and welcome back to another episode of Mindset Mastery Moments. Listen, we are here to have the continuation of a deeper chapter, a conversation that resonated powerfully with our audience. And so we want to make sure that we bring you what you want. And of course, it is with one of our guests that you have met before, but she's got all kinds of additional stuff. And of course, we can never get to the depth of what she does and how she's changing the world. If you remember our first conversation with today's guest, we explored healing, recovery, and courage it takes to begin again. Since that time, she's taken her work to an entirely new level by transforming and bringing a new aspect to her book. She brought it into an immersive space, into an audiobook experience, complete with music, storytelling, and emotional texture that meets the listener in a very different way. Now, of course, I've had my taste of it, and today we will give you a sample in this conversation, and you can obviously grab that experience for yourself. Notice I didn't just say a book, I said the experience. This book is called Yellow Paint. Now, today we're talking about music as medicine, therapy for a new generation, and why insight alone is no longer enough. I am reintroducing to you, Mindset Mastery Moment fam, the beautiful Karen Goslin. She is a psychotherapist, thought leader, and the creator of the KG Accountable Therapy Method. She is also the author of the book that you're going to hear about if you haven't heard it before. It's called Yellow Paint: Learning to Live Again. And since our last episode, she has launched that audiobook, bringing her story to life with voice, lyrics, and sound. And she even had a red carpet experience, I think at the Academy Award or the Oscars. She'll tell us all about that. Karen, we're so happy to have you back on the show. Before we dive in, what's new? What has shifted in you since we've had our last conversation?
Well, thank you so much for having me back. I know we spoke in August and, there's so much that's been going on since then in so many great ways. So, thank you for having me back. I'm calling 2026 Yellow Paint Part 2. We introduced the book and published it in 2025, and we're just building from there. There's so much more to offer. There's such a broader audience to capture. I just have so much that I want to share. If it can help another person that I wouldn't otherwise maybe meet in a therapy room, it's worth it to me. And you're right. We did produce the audiobook, so we worked on that over the summer. We launched it at the Emmys Gifting Lounge in Hollywood. So we were there initially at the Oscars for the print book, and then went back down to showcase the audiobook, which I'm incredibly proud of for so many reasons. And so we're building group programs now for therapists and clients, and all kinds of other very interesting projects. We're in U.S. publications now. I even have a Yellow Paint monthly column coming out later this year.
Wow, you have been building like the boss lady you are. Just to catch up our listeners who might have missed the episode, we won't go all the way in. If you can just reset for them what prompted you to write this book in the beginning of your journey, just a little bit. They'll have to listen to the first episode, which we will attach to this one. It'll be in the description. But just give them a high overview of the journey a little bit.
All right. Well, thank you for that question. Really, the premise is based on the fact that we will continue getting in our own way, in similar ways, with similar type of situations, continuously getting negative outcomes. And over time, those negative consequences tend to get more serious. So the book followed my journey of how I got in my own way, but based on the premise that these repeated patterns are invitations, opportunities to notice the pattern and to ultimately identify a core wound that we've absorbed in our earlier life and begin to look at what is the meaning of our painful experiences And how do we need to start thinking differently about ourselves, other people, life, and love? So the
Mm,
pain is a reframed opportunity to grow, and it's powerful. That informed the KG accountable therapy method that I ultimately trademarked
mhm,
because all of this overlapped not only with my own story, but informed in an even deeper way the work I was already doing with clients. So,
mhm,
old school, high level analysis here, old school psychotherapy was
mm,
non-directive, sorry, not structured. And clients and patients got better over a longer period of time by having
mhm,
repeated therapeutic corrective experiences, by
mhm,
having therapy in a non-judgmental space.
mhm.
But the world has changed. So I am committed to modernizing evidence based approaches, but bringing them up to date to the new world. Most people know what's going on in their life and even know why, but they
Yeah.
don't know what to do about it. So it's not just the thesis where is invitations to grow and uncovering that wound, but ultimately having daily tools and strategies to making the changes they need to master that wound and break that pattern.
Yes. And I love what you said. And obviously, it's demonstrative of your commitment when you speak on bringing things to the new world. One of the things that you did, like I mentioned earlier, is that you brought music to the narration of Yellow Paint, How to Live Again. How do lyrics tell a story that words alone sometimes can't, Karen? Why did you even think of doing something like that?
I
I
know,
know it's
good question.
intentional, right? And you just give
It
the
was.
technique. You're making sure you bring it in the today's world together with the medicine and the treatment of individuals. So tell us about.
Right. And I'm sure you know this in your own work, but when we find that stillness and our breath and we go, okay, what do I want to do? So when I
Mhm.
sat down to write the book, like almost like the very first day, and I'm like, I had most of chapter one already in my head. I knew how I wanted to introduce the whole idea of what was yellow paint, because let's be honest, most self-help group books, sorry, are not titled by paint colors. But I had the idea of why wanted to explain the yellow paint to the reader in the first chapter.
Mhm.
So, all right, I sit down. I know what I wanted to write. Where do I start? So I took that breath and I'm like, okay, well, a lot of people introduce chapters with quotes
Mhm.
and poems but I am a huge music lover. And my intuition said, Karen, what if you found a song? And at first, this was just going to be the first chapter. Find a song that sets the tone, maybe gives the reader a little bit of a peek of where you're going to go in this chapter. At that time, it
Mm.
was like start the book.
Yeah.
So I found the Rolling Stones Painted Black, and it made sense, right? Like if I can just take a second here, I'll read it. I look inside myself and see my heart is black. I see my red door. I must have it painted black.
Mm.
Maybe then I'll fade away and not have to face the facts. It's not easy facing up when your whole world is black. And as soon
Whoa.
as I touched on those lyrics, I'm like, that's it. And then that set the tone because as artists, whether you're singing or acting or sewing, like any type of artistic creation,
Mhm.
is like the total is greater than the sum of the parts. There's a message. And I found that thrilling. I had no idea that by the end of this, we'd be doing QR codes with Spotify playlists and then having, a production company get all of the orchestral background music in the audiobook. But that's where it went. And at one
Yeah.
point, there was one chapter I was struggling over whether, what song to find for it. So I went to
Mm.
my team and I'm like, maybe this isn't a good idea. And they're like, oh no, it's a good idea because hardly anybody ever uses lyrics. And then I found
Right.
out why. It's very hard to get copyright licenses for
Oh
lyrics,
my gosh. Yeah, that was what I was
right?
wondering about that.
That's
Yeah.
right. You can quote, as far as I know, don't quote me on this, you can quote anything without a license except a lyric.
Right.
So, and if there's another message in the book, it's like really going after what you really want in your life.
Mm.
So by that point, I was so invested in the music. I did everything I could. We ended up getting 9 out of the 12, lyrics copyright licenses too, so we could use them in the book, and I really love that part, and then when the audiobook came alive, it meant even more that the reader could hear the, background music as I'm reading the lyrics and as I'm heading into the chapters. I think it's really powerful.
It is. And that's a testament to the creativity and the thought. But then I also know that there's science backed behind what you did and why you do it. So, what happens neurologically when, and also I would say emotionally, when someone hears a story instead of just reading it?
Mhm. Well, I think it's an immersive experience.
Right.
I think that the storytelling comes alive in a different way that awakens the brain,
There's different synapses
and
firing.
it's more emotional. I
Mm-hmm.
think, everybody processes differently. Some people are more visual processors, others are more auditory. Some people love music more than others. But I think the audiobook is an immersive experience.
Mm-hmm.
You can literally close your eyes and be filled with the music, hear the lyrics. The whole book is an invitation to the reader or the listener,
Right. Right.
but the music is like you really can start to picture yourself as you listen to the words, as you listen to the music, and as you hear the story. I think it's just more powerful.
Right, right. It is. And just to follow up to that, was there a chapter where the music surprised even you in how it landed emotionally?
Well, the biggest one I get asked about is chapter 2 when I used Em's Lose Yourself, and it was like, you're telling the story about your Ukrainian Baba and Gigi, getting off the boat, like as far like we're talking Ukrainian polka music and them rapping. And I kept going back over like, "Okay, I have to," and it was like, "No, I don't have to do anything." Because every time I listen to that lyric,
Yeah.
seized every opportunity. So it just captures it. But yeah, I often say like, we'll look at that myself and be still surprised myself that I chose
That
that.
was my surprise, right? But I've gotten to know you and watch you, and you live life fully. You work very hard, but you spend meaningful time with your friends and your community. You're also building rapidly, growing your community, your tribe, impacting more lives on every platform you can. So, I wasn't surprised, but it was surprise I guess it kinda took like, really? Where it's landing,
That
right?
was
So
you.
I look exactly. But that's my you're my type of people, honestly, because a lot of people think us brilliant, accomplished, hardworking women that we are, they can cookie cut us. And just when they think they know what's gonna happen next, then they can't. And it's not because we try to prove anybody wrong. We just are not cookie cutter people. We are
Right.
real human. I say there's the girl, the woman, the young lady, and the boss. All of us, and if you wanna go for it, you will get the beat too. It's
Or
you got too. Pick your role, how you wanna show up in my world, and you'll be served accordingly because I'm not switching and becoming anybody. I am who I am, but don't try to
that's
cookie
it.
cutter me,
That's
right? So
it.
that was a pleasant
That's it.
surprise.
Yeah. And I know you know this is that it's like just we need to be ourselves.
Absolutely, nothing better.
Authenticity is our superpower, right? I mean, there's no right or wrong way. Somebody else might write a chapter about their grandparents and yeah, they would have played the Ukrainian polka, I don't know, or an Italian, but it's like when we step into ourselves, like it's like you shouldn't do it any other way, right? And
Yes.
so that's what makes anything we do as we're speaking to people, reading to people, listening to people, and what we're putting out to the world. It is so
Mhm.
powerful when it is truly from our deep, authentic self, no matter what we're really talking about. So
Mhm.
I think that's what's refreshing about that choice is
Yes.
because it is an extension of who I
I
am.
that's
And
right.
that is the invitation to the reader, right?
Yes.
So it's that wake up. It is that, where is she going with this? And what does that mean? And what does that mean to me? But the
Right.
other part of it, Dr. White, is the boldness of the method itself. So I continue to say, I probably said this to you in August, but like there's no butterflies and dandelions on my website. I truly believe that it's a new world. People are tired of having therapeutic spaces that don't lead anywhere.
Come on
And I'm
now.
saying that with
You're a
all due
catalyst.
respect, we're all doing the best we can.
Yes.
But I truly believe, especially with so much going on in our world, the bold, brave spaces where people can roll up their sleeves and be honest with themselves
Mhm.
and grow from there. That is what people are looking for and needing. So
Yes.
it's a bold choice,
Yes.
and it is bold when we step into the courage to just be ourselves. Um,
100%.
not knowing that not everybody's going to get us all the
Gonna
time.
Right. But you know what? Your tribe finds you, I believe, sooner when you're in authenticity. You manifest and you attract. Whether you some people don't like the word manifest or whatever. You attract easily because you're not sending confusing signals in your energetic sphere. Let's face it, we all are energy, no matter if you want to argue about metaphysics. I'm not even talking metaphysics. We are electrical beings. This is what we move because we move, right? So when you're in that authentic space, people are able to find you. And those are your people that, whether they're your people for 5 minutes, an hour, 10 days, they will experience the light that you bring to the world, right?
That's right.
We all carry light, but it has different signals to where it needs to go. And so if you're not authentic, then you're covering the light. You're not
That's
showing up
right.
as yourself.
And how could I write a book inviting people to be authentic? And I had to really show that this is how I found myself. The yellow paint was the interruption that took me to the best life I'm living. And there's many different parts that were important to talk about that, but it was a big demonstration of finding our worthiness. Most of our wounds are the
Mm,
worthiness wound where we aren't
mhm,
good enough. That is the most common. And so that's why we see so many people trying to please, trying to gain approval, or hiding themselves. And
mhm,
so that was a big part of the book was that how do we get to the life that we want to live towards
mhm,
what we really want in our life? And
mhm,
part of it, a big part of it has to be that we discover we are good enough as we are, as imperfect as we are. Can we truly just find the freedom to be ourselves without having to be perfect? And that's good
exactly.
enough. And that freedom that comes with that that will take you into your daily life because I'm these are sometimes a bit of abstract ideas, but I'm always big about bringing it down to your day. So whatever you say or decide or plan each day, if it comes from that place, you're going to be empowered.
You're going to be empowered. And by that, you will empower others too. So let's talk. You mentioned earlier that you're launching these group programs and the monthly calls. Why was it important to build group programs and not just for clients, but for therapists as well, right? You're not just doing clients, but you're doing therapists. That's another, this is why I call you a catalyst, it's because you're doing so many
Okay.
revolutionary things. So tell us about why just not clients, but also therapists.
Well, because I want to spread the word to those who are sitting as professionals in those therapy rooms, giving them an idea of what accountable therapy could look like. And they're up here in Canada anyway, a lot of our educational institutions teach a lot about, public policy and clinical approaches. And there is still kind of almost a fear, I think is the right
Mm,
word, in teaching therapists to be a bit bolder in the therapy rooms. The main premise, and I'm not knocking this premise, so don't take me wrong. The emphasis is on non judgment, client centered. So those to me are givens. Anybody who comes to see me, they're imperfect. I'm imperfect. We're all trying to figure ourselves out.
right.
I just don't think that's the only story. So the non-judgmental principles that
Mhm.
are informing therapists
Mhm.
tend to lend themselves to very non-directive therapy conversations.
Mhm.
And in my experience, the new world is not going to be in therapy for years like they were in the past.
Nope.
They're going to come in, they're going to experience the non-directiveness. They're going to feel good for a couple of hours after a session, maybe even a day, and then it floats away.
Mhm.
So I want to show therapists that there are steps beyond creating that safe, emotionally safe, non-judgmental space.
Mhm.
It's okay to provide some direction
Right.
because otherwise it's so easy for clients to indulge themselves in the session and feel a little bit better for getting things off their chest, but then nothing changes.
True transformation. Right.
So I teach a method that gives therapists a way to be a bit bolder, a
Mhm.
bit directive. One of the artists down in California said it's like interrupting with love. And he gave us that slogan. And I'm like, yes,
I love it.
it comes with a paradigm that we're imperfect as humans.
Right.
There's no shame in how we're getting in our own way. But when people hire us because they want to make changes, change is harder than we think.
Right.
So it's a bit of like no BS therapy. I'm going to tell
Mhm.
you what I think. I'm going to tell you how I think you're getting in your own way. I'm going
Right.
to tell you why, which you probably already have some ideas about. And
Mhm.
then we're going to start working on tools and strategies that you're going to use every day because
Exactly.
that's how fierce it has to be
It
because we
has
will
to
just
be.
default back to what we're doing.
Yeah, because I've met so many people in therapy for years. Well, I've been with my therapist for 6 years, and I'm like, you need a new therapist. You need a new therapist
Yeah,
because, honey, you sound worse than when I saw you 2 years ago. You got more.
that's right.
Let me
That's
not go there, you know. And
that's
and a
right.
lot of times, I don't want to blame the therapist necessarily at 100%, but I also know that people you sound too comfortable. That's my point. If you are this comfortable, then you're not transforming. Like now you are comfortable my ADD, my
Yeah.
anxiety, my trauma. I'm like, girl, we got all of us got some listen, but we're
Yeah,
not
that's
sitting here
right.
and well, you know how I get. You're too
That's right.
comfortable.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And people are spending time and money and energy and
Right.
desperately looking for change.
Mhm.
But
And their
therapeutic
families and
conversations
friends are counting on them to change.
that's
Come on.
right. That's right. That's right. And therapeutic conversations too easily float away
Yes.
for a number of different reasons. So here's my measuring stick at the end of each session with the client. Do you know what you're trying to do differently when you wake up tomorrow morning? Because if you don't, then yeah, we're gonna feel warm and fuzzy for what we talked about. But, and you might even have "Oh, that was a great conversation." But the next time you're triggered, your wounded self is gonna come out and go, "Yeah, if I got a deal for you, you're gonna do this and that," and then it floats away whatever we talked about. But if
Right.
something specific, I don't care if we're talking about how you're gonna take care of yourself differently in your pillars of health, how you're gonna
Mhm.
change how you're talking to yourself, or what you got from that deeper dive of going back into your childhood. It
That's
doesn't
right.
matter. No matter what direction we go in or how deep we go, that's
Mhm.
still the same measuring stick. Do you
Mm.
know what you're gonna trying to do differently tomorrow morning? The
Exactly.
only reason, even for going into those deeper parts of our life,
Mhm.
is to make our life better now.
Exactly, or just leave it. Just don't mess with it. Because it's all you're doing is digging up the mud and doing this.
That's right. That's
Now you're a
right.
bigger mess than you were. You're not just standing in a puddle of mud, you have become a puddle of mud.
Actually, there's a lot of research that says it is counterproductive to open it up and then just leave it, right? And I
Right,
know
right,
therapists are good at wrapping clients up. That's not what I'm talking about. But what I'm talking about is like time we can't change, we can't go back, right? We can't take time back.
right.
So we will explore the past and reframe the
Yeah, if
past,
we
which
go there,
feels
we
good.
must go there
Yep.
to bring ourselves a better version of ourselves at
That's
the
right.
present.
Right.
I
So
love
after
it.
it's yeah, because we can explore and reframe, but then ultimately it's about now what? right? So what did all that mean?
Mhm.
Does it mean I'm going to set a different boundary with my boss who's harassing me? Does it
Right.
mean I'm going to be more direct with my wife who is not listening? It's like there's all these, or maybe we have friends in our life that aren't treating us well. So there's a
Mhm.
repetitive pattern. We're going to be bothered by the same things that somehow represent what hurt us growing up. But
Right.
now we have the cognitive capacity to maybe take a different step. But it has to be top of mind and
Right.
specific. Otherwise, it's like, yeah, what did I know we talked about this in therapy and I should do something differently? No, we have to land somewhere specific. Otherwise, it won't be accessible to us.
Definitely. You are definitely a voice of our era in therapy, and I know it. Listen, I mean, my social media stream must be have 1,001 therapists for different walks that I'm just, here every now and then you get sound bites. I'm like, oh, let me go look into that. Let me understand this. But you talk about the rise of the self-aware client, and I love that. And in this whole conversation of therapy evolving, having that shared language and accountability and all of that stuff, not working in isolation. Talk to us about that self-awareness when you talk about it in the 2026 version of therapy.
Mm.
You're saying they've read books, they know the language. Why is talk therapy alone no longer enough for most of this type of client when you talk about self-aware clients?
It's like if I know something, but I'm afraid to look at it,
Mhm.
and then somebody points it out to me. That's refreshing. That's like, yes, that's right. That's exactly what I thought was going on for me. For example, adult male. His father
Mhm.
left the family when he was growing up. He was the oldest of three children. He ended up, his mom leaned on him, needed help. He ends up losing himself, taking care of his siblings, and he becomes a very hard driving, successful, ambitious man. But he has internalized that his father left him, that he's not good enough. He will likely be challenged in intimacy as he gets into adulthood. And
Mhm.
these are the men that are at high risk of leaving their families because there'll be something that plays out with him and his partner that he once
Mhm.
again doesn't feel his needs are getting met. These
Mhm.
are all these intergenerational patterns. There's so many examples of these.
Right.
So my clients will come in and go, I know, I got daddy issues. I've got a father wound.
Yeah.
I had a narcissistic mother. Like people, there's so many
We're so
books
educated. Yeah.
out there, right? So they come in and they go, yeah, I remember when I first opened my practice and a male client came in and said, Karen, I'm struggling with intimacy where I'm having issues with my partner. I think I have intimacy blocks that I need help with. So people come in labeling, right?
Already labeled.
So that's where I left it and said, listen, your father left the family and that's why, you had unmet needs and those resurface with your marriage and you develop these, passive aggressive ways of managing your feelings growing up. So that's what you did with your marriage and you ended up leaving your family like your father did. And they will
Right.
appreciate the summary as I pull that all together. But what if I
Yeah.
just left it there and went, okay, so that's our session and I'll see you next week.
That's old-fashioned therapy and it's full bloom. Trust. That's what I
Right.
know of.
So now we roll up our sleeves and say,
Mm.
let's start deconstructing this. So I can give you a couple of examples, but in this with
Yes.
this
Give us
one,
the
it would
KG accountable way. Yeah.
yeah. But it's like, so we would do some deeper healing about what that little boy really felt, growing
Mm.
up when his dad left. And we usually use images or letters or gifts, something very tangible, like, you know,
Yeah.
he would have, needed to have a microphone. Actually, let's use this. That what he needed more than anything was for his dad to hear him. And let's just say he tried to reach out to his dad throughout his life and his dad never heard him. So a
Mm.
gift, and I know this will sound a bit cheesy, Dr. White, but it's like, let's
Not
just
to
say he
me.
said, the gift from my healthy self will be my microphone.
Mhm.
Okay. So here's the deal. He will download that microphone onto his device, an image on his lock screen, on his home screen. The next time he's in a situation, if it's not too late with his marriage, where he doesn't feel like his wife is listening, She may
Right.
or may not be, because this is his perception.
It's his perception. Come on, his.
And this is where he ducks out, says, "You know what? I'm gonna give up." It goes into that passive aggressive track, and he gives up in the conversation. He goes, but he swallows it. He swallows how bad he feels. Instead, he remembers, this is what we talked about in therapy. He looks at the microphone on his phone. Sometimes clients will put an image, right? Speak louder or say it again. So he puts the device down and may say to his wife, "I'm not sure you heard me because what I'm really upset about is blank."
Mm-hmm.
He does what he couldn't do as a child when his dad walked out. He has a
Mm-hmm.
better way of directly communicating with his wife. There's many other parts to this. That's just one small piece of it. But that's
Mm-hmm.
how specific we need to get, because how many times do we look at our home screen, our lock screen every day? And what if this man saw the microphone, I don't know, 100 times, 500 times a day? My voice matters. My feelings
Yes.
matter. Don't give up. Don't act out. Find your voice, but everybody will develop their own image. But
Their
that's an
own tool and their
example
own
of something.
image. Right, right. It's just now it becomes, and that's the thing about it, that this generation doesn't want endless processing. They want tools, language, and movement. They want to know, what do I do next? Like, I get very specific questions even when I'm doing panels and, whether it's live or virtual. The questions are so specific, and it doesn't matter which continent or diverse group I'm talking to. When I get questions, it's like, "Dr. White, I am suffering with this. I've started many times, I might stop. I feel like I'm dealing with a bit of," and they will tell you what their diagnosis is,
Right.
imposter syndrome. How do I get through this? And they want, like, if you had to give me two things that I could do, and I love those kinds of questions because it tells me you're committed to take action and ownership in your life. And
That's
that's
right.
the, you know what I'm saying? So when you
That's the
talk about Casey
specificity people are.
accountable,
Yeah,
you're giving them, just giving them permission, like you said for the man that you brought into this scenario, permission and tools to be the boss of him when he couldn't be the boss of him, because what we did, we that's why I said earlier, the little girl, the young lady, the young woman, the lady, the boss lady, all of us exist. And what I have done, Karen, is I recognize, and I'm like, "That's 5-year Alisa. Okay, listen, sweetheart, I got us.
yeah, that's it.
I got us. We don't have to worry about that anymore, because guess what? We're not doing stuff to please mommy and daddy anymore.
That's it.
These
You got
grades are
it.
not about them. You're gonna pass this class and move on. You don't need 100. Let's go."
That's right. That's good. And as soon as you say, "I got this," whatever you do or say next is going to be specifically different than what you could growing up.
Mhm.
And that's to me, that's the liquid gold. I call that the gold nugget, right? And it's beyond the insight. And it's not even so much that I'm giving it to people, they're giving me all the material, and together we create these specific tools
Right.
that
They're
are
not
so
one size
meaningful.
fit
That
all.
for him, it's a microphone. There's flowers in sidewalks. There's umbrellas in rainstorms. There's a million different versions of that. And that's only just one track of our deeper program, but it gives you an idea where the clients will create their own specific tools based on their own material, sorry, with my guidance.
Mhm.
Because that's, I think, sometimes the biggest criticism of
Mm.
directive therapy, that you're doing their work, that you're giving them something they need to
That's
figure out
made
for
up.
themselves.
That's a made up, not in this process we're talking about. Maybe in some other process, because there's no way that you're doing the work for the client. This
That's
is
right.
literally giving them power. And that's where people where the win comes in, right?
That's
Being
right.
self-aware, and now the commitment. If I ask you to, on the counter side, what are some, or maybe one area that you find clients usually hit a hard spot in the process, like you can say, and this is how you help them get through those. It might be something that's more common around quite a few, or maybe 1 out of 5 or 2 out of 10, something like that.
Well, that's a big question. So you want me to give you examples of where this helps the most kind of thing?
Yes, exactly.
I don't, I think what there's many different chapters in people's lives, but what I often see are the 20-year-olds who are having failures to launch.
Mm,
And I mean, there's kind of demographics. So there's that cluster. There's the cluster who are going through a midlife crisis where they're mismanaging their relationships and their marriages and their
mhm,
careers. And then
mm,
there's the older folks that are, kind of have been miserable their whole life and are
mhm,
getting sick and are
mhm.
having what we call the gray divorce. So I really see those three demographics, but within those are many, many different,
Course.
possibilities from addiction to anxiety attacks to autoimmunity to divorce,
Mhm.
all different types and or losing track of their careers. But the
Right.
20 years, we used to think the 20s was the throwaway decade. And I write about this in the book because, you're usually not married, you don't have children, you don't own property.
Mhm.
And so it'd be like, go have fun. But what we're really seeing more and more is how important that decade is. So there's a lot of suffering
Ah.
in people in their 20s because they are dysregulating their education and career paths. They're having
Wow.
unsatisfactory relationships. And obviously the pandemic didn't help. But the pandemic created another silent pandemic of bed rotters, right? That
Whoa,
are
yeah.
people that can't find their way out of their bedrooms, you know?
Yes.
The other silent epidemic here is our self-harming and self-cutting younger
Mhm.
women in, not preschool, but like school age 7, 8-year-olds and then preteens, teens,
Yes.
and finding some relief and dysregulation through cutting. And then,
Mhm.
yeah, the midlife age people who are encountering all kinds of issues in their marriages. So it's those points in life. An old mentor of mine one time said that life is like flowing down a river. And
Mm.
the turns in the river are your developmental changes in your life. So the 20-year-olds that can't launch,
Right.
those that are married with children that are feeling stagnant in their lives now, for
Right.
themselves. Those empty nesters after children have left and left parents alone. These are when we
Yes.
get stuck. She said, you're flowing down your river and you get stuck at the side as you wind through around the
That
turn.
make that turn, yeah.
And whatever you've absorbed in your earlier years in your life that you didn't master will come to the surface.
Right.
So
Wow.
those are the clients that I see in those 3 clusters the most that can
Mhm.
easily get stuck, where we have to change how we're taking care of ourselves, change how we're talking to ourselves, regulate
Yes,
emotions, and then figure out where is all this coming from and what am I gonna do about it?
exactly. You identified some that's something that is all of those you said about what do you call it, the bedridden?
Bed
Because so many
rotter.
people bed rotters. A lot of people are because they're working from home. A lot of people, of course, it got really comfortable, but they're so now only between that job and home responsibilities, and they kinda just get stuck there, moving from, maybe the computer to cooking and
Mhm.
then the couch, or they don't really have a social life anymore because they've kind of,
Right.
grown they kinda stuck at home and gained weight, a lot of weight for some women particularly, and now it's like, "I'm not fit to go outside, like, I don't want people to see me this way." And so that becomes a thing because maybe food became comfort or a regulating form of them using it to help themselves. Well, some people say help regulate, but I call it medicate because it's not really
Yes, I call it
regulating, it's
Medicaid too. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
self-medicate instead of self-regulating, so that's their coping mechanism now, and so it's just this vicious cycle, so that's something if you're listening to us, there is help that is out here for you. We want you to consider life differently. And if you ever have a wink in your head or a different vision every now and then, grab a hold of that and reach out to get help. But Karen is here. You can reach out to her in her practice, but find someone and just take that first step because you can. And there are tools here to help you. Because when you said, the more you said it, all the stories I've just heard just the last week
That's
has just
right.
it just like
Right.
circled me. I'm
Yeah,
like, I
it's
could
like
see it.
right.
I've seen it. Yeah.
And find
Yeah.
a therapist who isn't afraid to interrupt you with love,
Come
to
on now.
say, like, and I'll say, like, "You can, I'm more than happy to hear you and listen to what you're saying. But if you want something different, I have a couple of thoughts." So find a therapist who isn't afraid to interrupt your patterns, because that's why you're
Mhm.
hiring them, to not just tell you what you already know. And don't get me wrong, we can be validated. Okay, that's great. Like
So
that
I'm not
helps me.
crazy.
That's what I
Yeah.
was thinking anyway. But then now what? Right? And just be sure that you're walking out of sessions with something different and new to try, to experiment with.
Right.
And do it every day to see if it can get you one step closer to what you really want.
Exactly. I feel like you've given us at least 5 things to look for in our experience with therapy. If you had to just kind of sum it up for us and give us maybe 3 to 5 must-haves, that would be, I would say, comparable or at least supportive or transformational to like the KG accountable process. What would you say those things would be for those who listen in and like, okay, I need to, like you just told us, ensure that they're willing to interrupt your pattern. What are some of those other things you would give us?
Yeah, I would say these are the markers, right? That you
Mm,
have a clear explanation that fits, sorry, a clear explanation to where you got stuck and why and what to
mm-hmm.
do about it. A clear treatment plan that gives you tools and strategies to not only manage better the here and now trigger situations,
Right.
but also makes use of that deeper material that keeps fueling and feeding you towards the problems to know what to do about that. So,
Mm,
clear explanation, clear treatment plan, and clear tools and strategies, whether you're dealing here and now or in the depths of your history.
mm-hmm.
And that you have clear ways of practicing and
Mm,
evaluating, tweaking as
right.
you go. So it's a very active therapy to be able to kind of touch on all of those pieces.
I love it. Absolutely. And I would say know your markers. It's like know your markers. In 3 months, I want to be here. Discuss that with your therapist as well, because that gives them even more like I would say more power to help hold you accountable. And that's how you know you're progressing as well. Now, Karen, tell us what's next when it comes to what you're going to do with yellow paint, KG accountable therapy, and all with the groups and the groups for the therapists and clients. What is that going to look like for you coming up here?
Well, yes. Coming down the pipes on our websites, on KarenGoslinSpeaks.com and Karen RSW, on all of our LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram platforms. There'll be downloadable PDFs that will give people something to read beyond the book, in terms of where these group programs will be going, a sneak peek at what they can expect, um,
Nice.
and be able to download them and view them for themselves. And that will lead us into introducing and launching our group programs for clients. 6-week programs
Oh, I
where
love
they can
that.
watch recorded episodes at their own time, and optional question and answer live sessions to pick my
Nice.
brain on whatever it is that, came up for them during that segment. So
Oh,
that's
I
going to
love it.
definitely be coming down the pipes. And then probably in the second half of the year will be our yellow paint therapy programs for therapists to consider how they can integrate some of these principles into their practice. And like I said, we are going to be in US magazines and Best Holistic Life and Ageless Living. There's going to be a yellow paint monthly column on different themes. Our one coming out next month will be on self-love, for example.
I love it.
All different points of the year of different things to consider. So we're just going to keep building our yellow paint movement to reach as many people as we can and as many therapists as we can.
Absolutely. I love it. And as we get into that segment where we do a little bit of flip the script, because we're listening to your professional side about your work and your process and your theory and your frameworks of how you work with clients, I know there is a woman particularly that's listening right now, including myself, because you're not just a professional psychotherapist and an author and a speaker, you are also an entrepreneur and a builder. You're building at lightning speed. Give us women, this is something I plan to do as often as I get boss babes, as they call us, on this
Mhm.
microphone, is ask a
Right?
question that you can give directly to women. If you had to say something to a woman, maybe she's a therapist or someone who's building, what would you say her mindset can be as she approaches building out her brand and bringing out her offer to the world? Of course, I know you've had moments that you question, like you said earlier, was like, maybe this is not so good idea. Talk to that woman that's listening for a second here, Karen. Whatever, wherever you're led to take us, just
No, that's good.
give our
Yeah,
girlies a shot.
yeah, I'm hearing, I'm listening. I got this. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different ways we could take this, and this will sound a bit cliche, but I'm going to take it to something specific.
Mm,
Because when you find, take that breath, and you find your
mm,
breath, and you
yeah.
go kind of into yourself, like why you're even, why are you even trying to build something? You're going into that. Why am I doing this?
Mm,
Where is this coming from? And you land in a place, I see it as a platform. I see it as a platform that goes, that's why I'm doing this.
mm,
This is why I believe in it. I want
mm-hmm.
it to land somewhere. And if I can do it, other people can do it.
Yes,
So
we can.
it is about believing. It is about authenticity. But I encourage people and women, your listeners, to just,
Mm-hmm.
if they take that breath, where am I landing?
Mm, mm,
And why am I there? And what do I have to offer? And why do I believe in this so much? Right? Why do I believe in this so much? And it's like, set that stage for yourself and then roll up your own sleeves
come
and
on now.
don't turn over every rock you need to, because you're launching from that place of believing in yourself so much.
Come on.
Right? So it's, yes, there's setbacks and curves and to the left and to the right, but how do you keep going? Because in your essence, you've got something to offer, something you believe in that is worth sharing, that
Mm-hmm.
helped you. Most of us will create something we've already learned ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we go into that deep place of why we're even doing this, because I know what it meant to me and how I
Mm-hmm.
crystallize that for others, that's your superpower.
Yes. Yes. And I want you all, she did not say anything about money. She didn't say anything about resources. She did not say any of these things. All that, those are the rocks you're going to upturn and not ever stop because you know exactly why and you know exactly where you're going. And that's it. Karen, you said a whole mouthful, and I encourage everyone to come back here. If you're listening to this, just come mark it. Now you can do this on Apple because it lets you bookmark spots now for podcasting. You can do it also on Audible. Bookmark this and come back to it as often as you need to. Come back right here. Then go on social media and take a look and keep up with Karen, like how you keep up with the Kardashians. This is keeping up with Karen. And
Okay.
she is she is doing exactly what she said. She never said it was going to be easy. Neither do
Right.
I. But knowing your why and staying have the begin with the end in mind and staying focused on that, nothing will become too difficult. Even when it feels tough, you do tough things. You've been winning 100% of everything that took try to take you out since you were in your mother's womb. So sis, hang in there. So that is great advice. Thank you so much, Karen. Let's ask you this one last question and flip the script. What has been in the last few months since we last spoke, one of the biggest moments that you had where you had to flip the script of your own mindset to keep staying in your path of healing and leadership and also delivering these service and products? What mindset shift did you experience?
That's a great question. So, when you're growing, I'll say this to clients, there's growing pains. You're nervous, you're scared, and I went through pieces of that coming into this year. And it was scary because you're like, do I really know what I'm doing? Can I really trust the people around me? Am I really going to get the support that I need and want? You can get
Mm,
into self doubt, and it can be, you can be afraid, and you could let it stop you. So the art of the shake off is what I call it. That says, okay, what did I learn from those disappointments or the experiences where I felt let down or I lost trust, right? The art of the
mm,
shake off. Because if you come back to your why and go, do I still believe in what I wanted to say? Do I still believe in what I wanted to teach? Then the art of the shake off is, how do I let go of those fears and disappointments and step
yeah.
forward? And that happened. That happened to me, and I had to take some time, like anybody else, to reevaluate, was there still worth in what I was trying to do? And when I could say
Yes.
yes, then I could forge
Keep
ahead
going.
again. But sometimes we have to reset. We have to renew and nourish ourselves.
And reconnect to the why. Sometimes you do because you get,
That's right.
you get worked out. You get worked out and you're like, wait, this seems like all work now.
Yeah.
This is just work.
Yeah.
This is just work and more work and more
That's
work.
right.
And
That's
going
right.
back to that place, that's why I said, come back to that recording that you just give us. That's like, you're gonna hear this when it's replay. You're like, man, that was good because it's
Yeah.
good stuff you gave us. Like, if people, when we're doing that reconnect, and that's, I call it the reconnect. And sometimes you have to do that, and then you might have to shift some ways of being and doing so that you can stay on that path longer or stronger, whatever that is for you. But that's it.
That's
You
right.
just have to,
That's
time it
right.
out, and that there's
That's
nothing
right.
wrong with that. Timeout can look like, it doesn't mean stop. It doesn't mean you have to ultimately stop the wheels turning. It just means you're not probably turning them as often or as much as you do, but you're maintaining and doesn't forfeit all that you've done. It just means you need to reconnect. It's no
That's
different.
right.
Our cell phone has a cord, a cable. My partner, I don't know where this man got a 6-foot cord from. Where he got that thing. We're sitting in the living room and he's all the way over there. But even that 6 feet cord charger cable has an end, right? And if he goes 6 feet and point one, it's going to come out of the wall. He's going to
That's
have to
right.
head back
That's
over in the
right.
6 feet
Yeah.
range and
It's
put
gonna
that
pull
thing
you right
back.
back. Yeah, it's gonna pull you
So
back. Yeah. Yeah.
that's what I hear you saying, Karen, is get back to the reconnection, resource, refuel, repower, and come back stronger. Maybe come back with some
That's right.
changes, but it's still
That's right.
connecting to that why and where you knew you were sent to go. And Karen, if you say, I don't know anyone who doesn't, because no one gets that deep and just ultimately stops. Maybe
That's
if
right.
you did, it's probably because you weren't authentic and you were doing what everyone said you should do and how they said you should do it. Now, all you do is flip the script and commit to doing it the way you know you're called to do it, because there's only one you.
That's right.
There's only
That's
one
right.
you.
That's right. That growing pains are inherent in the growth. It's part of the expansion.
Yes,
And so then there is that shifting that's needed. So be ready
yes.
for it. Come back to
Be
your
ready.
why, normalize it. Yep, that's right. That's evidence I'm growing and I've hit a point. You got to move things around, come back to your why, and then keep going and go back out there.
Absolutely. Well, Karen, listen, I love having this update conversation, hearing all the new things, experiencing, get a little bit more into, I love therapy 2026.
That's it.
You have, and I just can't wait to see what else you're going to do in the world. I'm looking forward to those programs coming out myself
Thank
so I can
you.
take a little bit deeper peek into what the KG accountable therapy process is. Had a little bit of a pinch in my world. And I'm like, maybe 2 or 3 years from now, I might go, get my therapy licenses and stuff in the US. And I don't know. We'll see. Because I
Yeah.
feel like it's just
You
all I
never
want
know.
is more tools. So,
You never
but either way, I'm always growing. I'm always
That's right.
evolving as a person. And I tell people, refresh your toolbox, update, throw out
Yeah,
tools that don't work anymore. Maybe you have that hammer, you just want a hammer now with cushion around it, whatever
that's
you
right.
need, maybe you want a pocket, I don't know, but update your toolbox. So I try to keep mine refreshed so that I can keep challenging my levels of growth so that I can become the next version of me to do the next level stuff that I'm put on this earth to do. So I will be looking to see when those come out, and we will be sharing everything. So if you can tell us your favorite way to connect with you and be on the lookout, like timelines for the programs, we would love to share it here on
That's
Mindset
great.
Masterminds.
Okay, great. Yeah. So KarenGoslinSpeaks.com is our Instagram. We're on LinkedIn, Karen RSW, and on Facebook as well. Yeah, it's hard to know exactly those dates. I would like to think that those client programs will be out by September. And then after that, the
Perfect.
therapist programs. So all of those will be loaded, and I'm more than happy to share those with your community.
Absolutely. So the easy thing to do is go to her website. I know she's got some freebies on there. Subscribe, download. If you're booking a call with her, book a call with her. But then that will guarantee when she puts it out, you'll get a notification, right? And
That's
I will,
fantastic.
because I am on her list. So what we're gonna do is update this episode when that comes out later this year, so you can have that information. It'll be on our episode, and we will also link her last episode, which goes into a little bit more about yellow paint and what the book is about. Listen, you have to get her theory and principle on the invitations that life give you. We didn't
That's
talk a whole bunch about it, but it's definitely in that. But get the book, get the audiobook. What's your excuse? You don't even have to buy the book now if you don't want to. You get the audiobook and get the whole experience. And I say get both because you're reinforcing the synapses in your brain to take in what Karen, as a psychotherapist and as an author, wanted to give us the world to experience. And I do have a copy of all of it. So I'm telling you, I'm not going to tell you, but we'd love to hear what your favorite chapter was in the audiobook. Leave a comment here, direct message Karen on her socials, and let her know you heard her here on Mindset Mastery Moments. Karen, thank you so much for coming in again today.
Thank you so much for having me on this part 2 of Yellow Paint and the audiobook, and your thoughtful questions about what is so meaningful in the book and in the approach that can help so many people.
I appreciate you. To our listeners, listen, healing isn't just about understanding your past. It's about having the tools to live differently now. So keep mastering your mindset. Keep up with Karen. Keep up with Mindset Mastery Moments for more. Keep living your best life now. Bye-bye.